welcome to Really Bad Movies. Today we are having an interview with...
Hey, Charlie Roxburgh here.
The cupcake theft scene is one of the most fun to watch for me.
They are the creators of many favorite
movie. They are the creators of many favorite movies of ours, like...
Slingshot Cops,
Don't Fear the River Beast,
Freaky Farley,
Local Legends.
The small town of Woodsville Center has a glimmer of hope. Officer Rusty Sinclair and Officer Wolf are the Slingshot Cops. It's the greatest sense theft related showdown that New England has ever known.
Yeah! I think the cops part was directly ripped off of Beverly Hills Cop.
but we're here to talk about Slingshot Cops today.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
when it opens up, Rusty is doing surveillance on a couple of firework dealers, and Charlie, you played one of the dealers, right? Were you like the head?
No, I play the kind of like in the way nerdy guy who's trying to get his cat.
Oh, okay. So you were a snickerdoodle.
At first I thought you were trying to sell cookies.
Excuse me, sir. You hiding behind the boxes? Have you seen my cat Snickerdoodle?
I thought he was trying to sell a Snickers.
Yeah, I thought it was too. and because
okay.
I was like, so is this guy like a Girl Scout? Yeah, when you walked in, you were like Snickerdoodle. You know, we were like,
Oh
is
my
he just
gosh.
going around selling those? That's awesome.
I should have thought of that. I did not, Farley. When we were writing it in my mind, I did not think of that scenario, but should have.
He's trying to lure the cat with the sound of the treats in the box, because the cat knows that sound, right? Right, Charlie?
Yeah. It's just I thought that'd be a fun name for a cat, but good point. Probably should have thought of that.
Now we're curious, what inspiration was it to make the joke? Little obstacles to jump over.
The parkour sequence about going over the boxes and the bottles was awesome.
I loved that.
Yeah, it feels like I think it feels in line with our whole thing. Like we're desperately trying to make a movie. Like we are barely hanging on as we're trying to film this. So it fits with our just barely being able to pull off a movie for him to barely have obstacles to jump over. And I don't know. I think it's like in the line of us being underdogs. You know, it felt like the right thing to do.
And it's fun to imagine like certain viewers watching it and saying like, "Oh, look at that! He's just jumping over those little things," and viewers feeling that they're better than us, you know. But the joke's on them. We know how bad we are, you know.
Or it's a corny joke for little kids to dig. Like, I think little kids might like that, you know? They think, oh, look at Farley jumping up. And that's cool. I mean, our audience, we'll skew pretty young on some of our movies.
Well, see, it reminds me of, of things that you would see in, like, with the Shaun of the Dead kind of stuff, where it's something you would expect, but then, hey, let's do something different, and here's the joke. You know, it's a tongue-in-cheek the entire movie.
Yeah, it's subtle. We do a lot of subtle stuff, I think.
Do you guys ever put inside jokes into your movies, like stuff that only you guys would really think to laugh at, or?
Yeah, well, we do a lot. We include a lot of quotes from really obscure horror movies for the most part. We'll have these weekend-long horror movie marathons of movies that are still like only on VHS. And when we're watching them, we'll have a notebook handy, and anytime there's a good quote, we'll write it down and then we'll work it into, we kind of like have a big bank of quotes, and then any way we can drop one in there. Like Dr. David saying, we doctors are anything if not, what is it, Charlie?
Formal.
What's that from?
I don't know. Something like that.
Happy birthday to me. But anyway, that's our approach.
I mean, that's heavy.
Multiple movies that you have quotes in that I have to Google as I'm watching, like the Que Sera Sera from Razin Detre. I don't think I... and then
yeah, we like to slip in some French things to seem really intelligent. Joie de vivre comes up a lot too, I think.
I couldn't.
Yes.
I tried texting. I thought he said joie de vivre. I tried googling that. Couldn't find anything.
Joie de vivre, the joy of living.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. No.
Did you know in the captions, when the company that did the captions for us, they were trying to figure out when Officer Wolf says, "We cops have to relax a bit. It's de rigueur," which just means like that's how it's done. The captions people got confused and they typed in, "We cops have to relax a bit and stay regular." So he couldn't understand what the heck he had said, but that's the way it is on Amazon now. And I didn't check all the captions before it went live. I just thought, yeah, what the heck?
I'd keep that.
Keep it. Yeah, it's funny. It's extra bonus. It's one of those embarrassing kind of zany things that happens when you're making low budget movies, and just roll with it.
And it's in keeping with our approach. Like, we don't tell people to do a bad job. We tell people to do as well as they possibly can. And then if they end up making mistakes, it's pure and real, Like, there's some bad movies where people are being bad on purpose, and I feel like you can just tell. So what we do is we just have a bunch of actors who, none of us are very good, but we do our best, and invariably we make tons of errors, and that's where the fun is.
Now, speaking of your actors, you guys use a lot of the same recurring actors. Are they friends and family, or...
Yes. Yes. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. Especially family, because they can't really say no to you or not show up on the day. That's a big bonus. If they live with you or very nearby, it's hard for them to hide from you. So that's a bonus. And other people, if we've known them for 10 plus years, they're kind of roped in by now. So they won't say no to us. But we have in the past tried a couple like Craigslist people or random people, and on the day of filming didn't show up, or text and say I got hives this morning, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a lot of Farley's family, people he's worked with, some of my family, people I've worked with, or whatever. But we do write for those guys now too by this point. So if we think, oh, Kevin McGee would totally say this, we're writing for that guy, and that makes it a little bit easier in terms of his delivery. He's just like, oh, this is exactly what I would say, and we're like, we know. That's why we wrote it that way. You got the fog to creep and smoke to creep around the actual puffiness.
We celebrate that, It's like that's. I mean, a lot. It's hard when you say like the worst movie. There's so many movies that are considered the worst movie, and I just want to watch them over and over again because I love those little things. Like Hollywood movies are too predictable because they do exactly what they want to do. It's more fun watching a movie where the filmmaker just barely didn't even get to the finish line. There's like unfinished scenes, but they're like, yeah, good enough, just put it out there. That's interesting.
And that's actually one of the things that we especially want to showcase on our channel, and that's one thing that we want to that's why we spotlighted you guys, is because people would say that this is a bad movie, but it's not a bad movie. That's why when we do like the really bad movie stuff, we try to verse each other and try to get movies that literally are almost unwatchable. That you're like, okay, this, I can't watch this again. And you guys, how many times have we seen all of their movies?
Before the episode, I've seen it 4 times. He saw it 3, and that was his first watch it.
Wow,
and then after that, we binged watched the rest of your guys' stuff.
Yeah, you guys are you're onto something there. That's great. Same thing when people say, "Oh, have you seen Plan 9? It's a bad movie." But like, you could totally watch it. It's got a story. It's in focus. There's movies that are so bad that either it's so dark you can't see anything. There's stuff that's just like after 5 minutes you're in physical pain, and that is not like no, it's not Plan 9.
Right, and I love the fact that you said it's in focus. That is a big thing right there.
So you guys probably wear multiple hats.
Yeah. And you ready to charge,
start with
Farley?
your line. Yeah, about the archive.
And action.
City Library Archive.
He's a muckraker.
So for writing, it was Charlie came up with Charlie sat me down. It was the weekend we were premiering River Beast, and we were having breakfast, and he said, "Picture this, a buddy cop movie starring you and your uncle Jim McHugh." And I said, "I'm in." So from there, the two of us would meet on Skype and have a Google Doc for about an hour to an hour and a half every week, and that happened for about a year, or even a little bit more than that. And then for filming, I'm called the producer, Charlie's called the director, because he's more apt to be behind the camera and telling us what to do. I'm more apt to be doing like recruiting actors and scheduling people. And then the day for filming, like I said, it's Charlie's calling most of the shots. I'm usually in front of the camera, and we're just running around like crazy because we have only an allotted amount of time for every scene that we want to do, and usually we're planning to film from like 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. on the days that we are filming. So it's just exhaustion and chaos. And then Charlie does all the editing. I do most of the music, but Tom, who played the Eastern European, he did some of the music in Slingshot Cops too.
Okay. Was it intentional not giving him a name? Just keep calling him the Eastern European?
Yeah, because we've seen other 80s like bad horror movies or just interesting weird movies where they kept things so vague. A lot of times it would also be like a foreign investor, like a Spanish-Italian production coming over here and trying to make a movie that's set in New York, and they just have something a little off about them, the way they describe things, or they describe sports, or they just don't get life here. That's almost how I think that character is. It's like we're almost imagining when we're writing it, what if someone was writing this who didn't do any research and just kind of like went with the broadest thing, like the professional athlete in River Beast. We just think, let's just roll with Frank Stone. And some kid could watch the movie and not question that he's just called a professional athlete with no sport. But anyone who's like, once you get to be 12 or 13, you're kind of like, what did he do exactly? Is it football? Is it hockey? So yeah, I think that's basically the idea of the vagueness of things. It lets people, it tickles their funny bone gently, and you could either dig it or not, but it's not in the way too much if you don't.
You're on the beat.
Chunk, chunk.
Punch your card.
Chunk, chunk.
It's actually even slightly thicker than I think.
Yeah, this is a very thick piece of cardstock.
Fantastic.
And I was kind of surprised to find out that in your other movies, the actor who played Frank Stone is a bad guy most of the time.
Yeah, he's good. He's good at having that diabolical kind of approach, and so we usually go in that direction. But I think River Beast is one of the few times that he's able to be a hero. But even when he's a hero, he's kind of imposing, like there's a major toughness right there. And just the way he is, he's like, he's a bodybuilder, he's super strong, and he's good at keeping a straight face. So that's usually reason enough to give him the bad guy role.
So How long did you say that it took to film Slingshot Cops?
Slingshot Cop.
Full filming days, is it like maybe 11, 12 or something like that, Farley?
Yeah, I guess.
But they're spread out over a long time.
It was spread out over like 4 months or something, where we'd do a weekend, like a 3-day weekend of filming for, and then everyone goes back home, and then, I don't know, 6 weeks later we do it again, and so on and so forth. But yeah, whatever Charlie said, 12, 13 actual days of filming.
And we write the parts to film in the areas where the people live, near where they live. So if we know that all those guys who were the fireworks dealers at the beginning live near New York, Connecticut area, we write parts for them and we pick a location that's near there so they don't have to travel too far. Then when we know, okay, it's Memorial Day weekend, we're filming all the Massachusetts stuff by Farley, we make sure that all those characters don't have to interact with the New York guys, and then we're going to get all them done in like a weekend. 3-day weekend.
That
Used to be a person could live in Woodsville Center and not get his senses.
this is cinematic right here.
Yeah.
This is a shot.
Well, it's because this kitchen is kind of
Well,
modern.
slowly pushing in.
So, who commissioned that shot?
We're gonna with Kevin McGee. All those scenes are in his backyard, so it's like, hey, we're gonna show up at 9 a.m. and he's gonna be there. So it makes things a lot easier for him not having to travel and knowing he's gonna be there.
His wife goes shopping usually when we show up, because she doesn't want anything to do with us. As soon as she sees us arriving, she's out the door. We're like, bye, Joanne. And she's like, you
guys keep making
when
these
are you gonna
movies. And
stop
then next
making
door, a
things?
guy was doing knife throwing or axe throwing, and we kept hearing the metal chinging off his target. And we were trying to do a scene for the last movie. Super funny, embarrassing stuff going on.
Here, come on. Everyone in the neighborhood needs to quiet down.
I got a huge sense of nostalgia when I saw that you guys were in the same backyard where you sang the River Mud Shuffle from the that one the River Beast. So
For the basketball tournament?
yeah,
Or
the basketball
shootout?
tournament.
That's my parents' backyard. So they're always up for anything, and I'm just like, all right, Mom and Dad, we're gonna throw a big foul shooting contest on Saturday, and they invite all their friends. So like most of the people in attendance are like 60, 75 years old, just friends of my parents, and they don't care that they just do what we say. Usually, it's like they start to lose interest after a little while, and then like the crowd. In certain shots, the crowd is kind of depleted because people just.
It's like 10% acting and 90% having hors d'oeuvres and like a little drink or something. So that's basically the requirement of the extras.
Mostly pizza.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but your father played the commissioner. Am I right?
Yes.
Let's adjourn to the swing set, shall we?
What?
I wonder if they moved here because they got kicked out of the other area.
In fact, the evil sensefoot of which I just spoke. Let's hear from Rusty.
Yeah, because there's a game now.
everybody.
Did you have a specific question about that or no?
Oh, I was just wondering if that was him. I saw a lot of Farleys and a lot of Roxburghs in the credits, and
It's funny seeing
that was him.
the commissioner's
Yeah, he did
desk,
his
Farley, on hindsight is pretty funny.
Say it again.
Doesn't the commissioner's desk look extra small in hindsight, kind of?
Yeah, well,
Hilarious.
yeah, we try so hard to that's my garage. Like the it's a 2-car garage that we tried to make look like a police station, and
I thought you guys rented out a place. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, well it was good. You know, the worst part about it is like the concrete slab floor. You know, it's like that just does not make you think you're in a police station.
Or seeing the garage door, like seeing the rails on the. You could see that once or twice.
That blue line was good. Charlie painted the blue line because I have no practical skills. So Charlie was able to paint that. I did one brush stroke, and I was like, I'm done, Charlie. I can't do this anymore. We bought a bunch of like desks and whatnot at some like flea market type place. But it just seemed the more we bought stuff, it just amplified how little we had, sort of. You know what I mean, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, just imagine. I mean, just when I tell people about it, just imagining the desks, because you're like, okay, we need 5 wooden or decent-sized metal desks. That's like moving. That's like a moving job, basically. And how much money? What is our budget for desks? Our budget for desks is like 0. So, you know, we just had to go to this place and try to sweet talk them. And one of the desks we bought, the cheapest one we could find, it was so tiny, but it was not a desk. It was an old, like, a lady's sewing table. A sewing machine table. We're like, we'll use it. It looks like a desk. So when Farley throws his slingshot away into this, like, open thing, this little drawer that opens, that's where I think they kept their sewing.
No, if you open it, then the machine comes out of it.
Oh, the machine comes out of it. Yeah, you have to, and you hide it with your body a little bit. It's pretty funny.
I just recently tried. I had to sew something on my son's karate uniform, and I was using an old desk like that. So when I saw it, I go, "Hey, I know what they're doing." I know.
Yeah,
what
that
he's
was
doing.
the cheapest one. I mean, we probably talked him down to like $5 for that desk.
Then the set that you did when Wolf died and he was in heaven, that was pretty elaborate of a set then.
The clouds?
Yeah, with all the clouds.
Yeah, that was all miniatures.
Oh, you used miniatures.
So I got an old pillow, and I ripped out the fuzz, and then I put it on top of a table, piece of plexiglass with some fluorescent lights below it, and shot that actually with the same Blackmagic camera that you guys have right there. Then we shot Wolf I just rotoscoped him out and put him into the miniature clouds. We could not pull off a heaven full size, but it was fun to do miniatures. It was old school.
Oh, actually, no. I'm actually surprised because no, that worked really well. It didn't look like he was green screened or rotoscoped into that scene. No, that was pretty good.
Thanks.
Whoa!
Wait. This shit's gonna trip him up.
What's going on,
Watch
guys?
out. Quick, gonna get tripped up.
Quick, build the fort.
Whoa! Yes.
I believe there was 3 shots that were extremely cinematic that did not fit the entire movie. We talked about it beforehand, and
There was a shot that Eastern European he's been banished from
the city. Epic pan or track in shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was when he was out in the woods. That by the way, that creek that he was in, I don't know where that creek is. You need to shoot a whole movie there. That was beautiful. That whole
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were like, oh man, that you had perfect lighting. It was a cloudy day.
Fallen
It was perfect
trees
everything.
and that's a good location.
That was so on that date, Charlie and I drove to Tom's house in upstate New York, near Binghamton, New York, and he brought us to those woods, and yes, they were beautiful. And because all we had to do on that particular day were those scenes, we were able to spend a little bit more time. And when it's just me, Tom, and Charlie, we don't have to worry about like tiring out other actors or whatnot. So we can put in a little bit of the extra time to get exactly the right angle. And yeah, those woods were amazing, huh?
Yeah. It's almost like a Lost World or some kind of Jurassic Park feel in those woods, and we had them to ourselves. So yeah, we took a little more time, and sometimes you get lucky with the weather or the time of day, and that's literally a lot of time. I mean, it is just luck because it depended how long it took us to drive there and how long it took us to get the other shots before that. We don't really have the luxury ever of waiting till sunset or waiting till the angle is just right. But sometimes everything just comes together. You know, you shoot enough movies and enough shots and it works.
So and it's my fault too, because I'm the guy who's always saying, "Who cares if it looks good? Let's just get it done. Let's get it done." Whereas Charlie is more apt to be like, maybe if I just did this. I'm like, no. So all the bad shots are my fault.
So you guys, like you just mentioned that that you're, you used a black magic. What's all the equipment that you used on filming, I guess, any of these movies?
Very little equipment. I mean, on Slingshot Cops, since we're talking about that one, the movie is actually shot with a Canon 5D. I just shot the inserts, the miniatures with the black magic. But basic lighting kit that Farley's brother-in-law let Chris Peterson lets us borrow. So we've got like one soft box and maybe 2 soft boxes. That's it. No C-stands, no flags. So shooting on the 5D, couple lenses. They're really old lenses that Farley just happened to have from a pre-digital camera, from a SLR camera. That's it.
But
prior to that, we did it on we did 2 movies on Super 16mm film, Freaky Farley and Monsters, Marriage, and Murder in Manch Vegas. That was a wild experiment too.
Which do you prefer?
I kind of prefer shooting on film. I like the look of it better, and I like worrying a little. There's different aspects to both, but it was kind of fun to be done at the end of the day, unload the film, tape up the can, and not have to like transfer a bunch of files to a hard drive and worrying about the little card and stuff like that.
Right.
We worried about the film getting eaten, or we have lost some footage at the developer before, but there's, for cost and where we are in our lives now, there's no comparison. So there isn't really even any part of me that's like, oh man, I wish we were still doing that. It took every penny and ounce of our lives to make those other 2, and the camera is broken because of it, because we're hard on that camera. I mean, we're in what you see where we are. The one thing we do that I think maybe a lot of similar no budget movies don't do is we have a ton of locations. So even though it's a pain in the butt, Farley and I will walk deep into the woods to a certain rock where it looks cool, or we'll go to an overlook and we'll film there, or that part where Tom was walking in the woods in Slingshot Cops. It takes us half an hour to get there into that woods to park and hike with the gear and everything, but you get a cool shot out of it, and maybe it makes it more entertaining for the audience to kind of spice it up visually a little bit, and we don't shoot too much night shots. I would say that too, now that I'm thinking about it. So for a couple reasons. One, we don't have a lot of lights, and 2, Farley and Tom and I have been watching so many bad movies for so long that when we watch one where it's total dark, kind of like you guys talking about that sword of magic.
Yeah, magic sword.
Right? Magic sword. So it's wearying on you to see a dark screen all the time. Like you're just like your eyes are looking for something to grab onto, and you're trying to figure it out. And it's just like, we've watched so many of those over time, and even ones that are more recent than that one, that we talk about it and like, you know what if you just have a bright shot out in the sun, and it feels a little happier, it's easier to do, you're going faster, and we've sort of gotten away from all horror or anything that's scary has to be dark in the night.
Hey, that's the guy who warned us about the river beast.
Right. Okay, yeah.
Well, in retrospect, I was thinking, like, Kira is the town singer, and he steals her sight. If we had written it a little bit more tightly, he would have stolen her voice, Charlie. If he like.
Yeah.
But
that's not a sense,
I guess
really.
the voice isn't a sense.
Well, honestly, I think that's what made it a little bit better, is because it's like, oh, he was stealing something from him, but it's like, oh, it's not what you exactly expect. Oh, this random homeless guy. Oh, you're gonna just steal his hearing. Oh, this.
Though I thought I was gonna call it when he stole that guy's. He loved cupcakes. He stole cupcakes in the beginning.
Stole his smell.
He just stole his smell. He didn't steal his taste. And I thought that would have been a nice little turnaround right there.
Actually, I liked it because then you didn't know what was going to happen. You're like, oh, well, what is he going to steal from this guy? You didn't know. It was fun.
But talking about it was written very well. Like I was upset at first with the hooligan, Matt, you're trying to infiltrate the hooligan firework people, and ultimately that scene didn't go anywhere. And I was upset at first. I was like, everything else is so well done so far, but then they ended up coming back into play, and everything came back into play at the end to wrap up the ending. So it made sense. You had to establish them more.
It's a little bit of misdirection.
Right.
Sort of.
So I appreciated that at the end, but I was a little thrown through a loop at first. I was like, what?
Yeah. We kind of talked about it almost being like a James Bond movie with an opening that's like separate, sort of. You know, like an action-y few minute sequence at the beginning before you settle into the movie.
Guys? Perhaps I confused the south side shuffle with the north side shuffle. I didn't bring my compass. Could you come back? I want to buy some boomsticks. Forget it.
What a part of that was supposed to be their jokes, and what went on too long?
Okay.
And it's similar.
When we were first at the very start, the sensefoot character, Dr. David, he was just going to be a straight out killer. He was just a serial killer, just murdering people for the joy of it. And then we were like, I don't know, is this a little bit too dark? When we hold the premieres of our movies, it's like our parents and our nieces and nephews and all these people, and do we really want to show them Kevin McGee run around murdering people? So we changed it to Stealing Senses.
Yeah, that's our only audience, is people we know and you guys.
Do you guys do the same thing for we were wondering the firework dealers? It's so innocent. It's not like drug dealers and prostitutes, you know?
Yeah, totally. Like, we make it so innocent that it's almost insulting to people. They're like, they roll their eyes at us and say, "Are you for real, fireworks dealers?" You know, I've had people have actually complained to me, like, your characters are too nice, they say, you know. But we love it. We make it so wholesome that it's almost insulting.
It's like better than the real world. It's more
and that's
gentle.
what made it so shocking when you killed off the wolf in the movie.
I know, or even more so when Pippi died briefly.
Oh yeah. I was like, they killed the dog.
Gasp in the audience when people see Pippi in heaven, they're like, no! Like, people were devastated. And when we were writing that, I wanted to keep Pippi dead, but Charlie said we can't do that. You can't kill a dog in our movie.
I'm gonna have to side with Charlie on this one.
I'm going Matt on this one because I prefer the dog.
See, I even love in like the River Beast, where you had the Avengers of Tutors, so to speak. I love that.
Assemble, run down the hill, yeah, with no weapons and no fighting skill.
Yeah, the police, Paul T. Hansen, the cop, he lets me out of jail on one condition: you and your tutor friends go and save the town. As if we have any credentials to do that.
Yeah. I feel like one thing you should do one day is just take a movie and go through it and just kind of like pinpoint all of the minute jokes that people are. See, I think people don't understand because they watch the movie and they just look at it at face value. And they're like, oh, okay, it doesn't look like they had a huge budget. Oh, okay. Oh, the dialogue is just bad because it's just these people don't know what they're doing. No, you guys know exactly what you're doing. You know that this is a joke. And I feel like you need to come out and say, by the way, that's a joke, that's a joke, that's a joke, that's a joke one day.
Yeah, well, we sometimes before the screenings, I'll really spell it out to people, and I find it's a good way to like prime them for the experience. If Tom was there and I told the story before the screening, I said, you know, Charlie and I decided to write a character who was Eastern European, and we called Tom and we said, Tom, you're going to be an Eastern European. And he said, do I have to do an accent? And we said, yes. And he says, I don't know what that accent would sound like. And we said, neither do we. So just make it whatever you want. And that, then people can kind of sit back and have a little bit more of an understanding. Or just the fact, have you ever had the idea that your wacky uncle should be an action star? And it's like, yeah, maybe some people have joked about stuff like that. We had that idea, and then we spent 4 years actually, writing, shooting, editing, and releasing that actual movie in which, my 65-year-old uncle plays.
Teaching you to aim a slingshot in the park, yeah, where we have no permits, running around with a Halloween police uniform on, Halloween store police uniform on. You make a good point, though. It's totally right. I mean, we have to hope that 1 in 1,000 people have really good taste like you guys do. Other than that, unless we're at a screening with them in person or they know us, we just have to hope. The only thing that I will say that we can maybe help people with is Farley and I are kind of working on a little documentary about some of the stuff we've made, and I think that maybe that will be a good prologue or entry point for some people to see. But it's out there in the world, and either you kind of get the sense that we know what we're doing or you don't.
There is a question that we always refer to, and is there such thing as elusive picnic babes by the river that you can take pictures of?
Yeah, I think I came up with that phrase, and it was just so great to imagine not only that there are picnic babes, but that everyone in town knows about them. It's like a thing. The woods.
It's part of the attraction of the town. Come see our elusive picnic babes.
We got a river beast and picnic babes. Go out into the woods, find them.
And they're always there, no matter what time of day, what day you're there. They're there, just doing their thing, just dancing in place.
Because it was a lot of mosquitoes in those woods, and I had to drag them out in the woods and be like, all right, girls, now do this. Good.
They're laughing during filming, 20 minutes, and then they're gone. Yep.
Yeah. Bring out the slingshot and the acorns.
Nope.
High five.
You're stuck.
They're getting the perfect ammunition.
Acorns, really?
And
you have to inspect them.
No, we got an acorn montage. Oh!
Gotta get that cupcake.
I want to see him slingshot a cupcake.
I want to see them use slingshot, period. Oh.
Who was inside the River Beast suit?
It fluctuated. I think it was me a little more often than not. And you couldn't really see. You could barely have a vague idea of where you were, and you had these long claws. So I didn't want to accidentally scratch someone's eye out. So and it was tight and hot and gross. But I was in it for the most part. But then when the beast would have to attack me, I'd have to take it off. It would be all sweaty and gross, and then Tom or Charlie would then have to put it on. And it was awful. And then in the scene where the beast comes out of the water, I was in it first, but I'm not tough at all. So the water was cold, and I was hyperventilating. There's a behind-the-scenes footage of me coming out of the water, gasping for air. Very embarrassing. And then Charlie again had to then put it on after it was wet and gross, and then he goes in. But we all did our time in the costume, and we still have it. Shockingly, it's in even worse condition now, but we still have it, and Charlie puts it on sometimes for different events, despite the mold.
The foam in the water was unbelievable because you're trying to move around and you want the head to stay on, but the second you went down in the water a little bit, it started to come off the top of your head. So you had to and the front fake muscles were also floaty. So you couldn't really dive under and come up, which was kind of like a dream shot we wanted to get in the movie. When you guys talked about it, when you reviewed it, you were spot on. We couldn't walk, we couldn't see. It was chest-crushingly cold. I mean, the water was definitely unsafe to be in. And whatever we got was just skin of our teeth. We got what we got, which isn't that impressive, and that was hard.
Are we gonna see how awesome this Slingshot Cop is?
Going from your first movie till now, what did you learn between each movie that you incorporated into the next movie? Like for Freaky Farley, what did you learn there that you're like, okay, let's tweak this and maybe do this differently into the next movie? And did you learn anything else from movie to movie that you incorporated?
I mean, we picked up a lot of tricks along the way, like how to make a scene. Like when there's a scene with 3 actors, but one of them is available on Saturday to film, the other one's available on Sunday. How do you do that? The third actor is probably me, and I'm available both days, so we can film shots of me and actor A on Saturday, and then me and actor B on Sunday in the same location. And because I'm there for both of them, you don't even notice that actors A and B are never in the same shot together, because my character will kind of keep them together. So it's little tricks like that, and like we said before, other filmmakers might say, well, let's wait for a day where all 3 of us are ready, but that leads to a never-ending project. So you just have to, all right, we know some tricks, and oftentimes I'm fooled. Like I'm watching my own movie and I forget that it was filmed on separate days, or sometimes even separate locations. So that's some of the tricks that I picked up. Charlie?
Yeah. I think also maybe we've try not to give people too many speeches, like big long speeches. When you look at the script and you're like, ooh, that's a chunk. When the actor is your friend or just an amateur, doing it just for fun, they'll be like, oh, that stresses them out and it's a lot for them to get out all at once. And any way that when you're planning, if you can kind of maybe distill it down a little bit or share the lines or find a way that they could do some of it maybe in voiceover, that can help. But, when you got to choose your moments, when it's a really funny speech, and if it's something that you can't do without, roll with it. But big, huge, long chunks of dialogue can be daunting.
But a good trick for that is, if it's 7 sentences, we can literally have the actor do 1 sentence at a time. And sometimes, for real, people have had to do half a sentence at a time because they don't know.
Half a sentence, reaction shot, half a sentence, reaction shot, half a sentence. Yeah.
So we have a lot of shots of other characters just looking and listening. All right, let's get you listening, and we need a lot of shots of just this blank face that we can keep cutting back to. And for me, that becomes one of the fun jokes too. There's so many listening shots, and usually the listener looks pretty uninterested, which I think it's hilarious. Some important information is being conveyed, and the other person just has a completely blank face, and we keep cutting back to him. Not because it's important to the movie, but it's because it's the only way we could get the person talking to deliver all the words.
Nice.
The not enough song, especially if it's not going to coincide with a moment. If the scene's just kind of ending and there's no big jump near the end, you can just let it ring out. And one easy thing on my side is that it's a little bit easier for Charlie, the editor, to adjust when the moment happens to the song than it is for me to do it the other way around.
So whose decision was to bring the? Because I commend you on the writing of mentioning that little call that she gets, and oh look, it's about an angel. So you bring an angel later on into the movie. It's not weird. Whose idea was that?
Maybe Farley. I don't remember
we
exactly.
literally are both typing at the same time onto this Google Doc. So I don't remember who came up with it, but I do remember it was a retroactive situation where we said like, oh, wouldn't it be cool? Like, we need to establish earlier in the movie that what is it? What is the
little Sharon gives the line about how she needs to say that you believe in somebody, and then
you have to state you believe in someone. So we were late in the process of writing a movie where we got to that part, and then Wolf came back. We were like, well, how can we explain this? Oh, I know. Let's quickly go back to page 20 and add a really quick little scene where Sharon takes that phone call. So that's there's a lot of retro. I don't know what the word for it is, but just like going back and establishing something early on to explain something that happens later. People like it. It's like a callback in a comedy set or something. But you can
and
be
if it's
very,
funny, right?
You can be very scientific about it, though. You know, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened later? Okay, I got an idea. Let's just drop it in earlier.
But then you make it funny and also make it sort of establish her character a bit. We're like, okay, she's nice. She handles this well, talking to this kid. You know, if you had to leave the screening halfway through and you only saw it in terms of her talking to a kid on the phone, you would think, oh, that's a small town police station call they get. It's cute or whatever. So then you get added value later.
Kitty litter too. I feel like we probably did that with the kitty litter, right? Right, Charlie?
Yeah. I remember thinking of the kitty litter. That was late in the game as well. Similar thing. I don't even know if it's true, but I had heard that some breakdancers used kitty litter on top of like cardboard to get good spin. So that was why I thought that the Pop and Lock girl would have that. I probably should have researched it, but I don't know.
So you saying you didn't have a way you wanted to kill the river beast?
No, we were writing it in real time.
Nice.
Just not without an outline, and it just came out that way.
Slingshot Cops was the same way. We had written about 75% of it before we realized that the trick was to inundate Sensefoot with everything at once. So a lot of that just came together, but we had to tweak a few of the things. I think that's when we decided that Vance would be all about hugging people, I think. Right, Charlie?
Yeah, on the surface, you could think, oh, it's just a politician thing. He's just like this gregarious peace and love guy, but actually, yeah, it's going to factor in. Because
and that ended up making his character a lot more likable, too. Like, in the first draft, he was a little bit more, like, angry and surly, but then when it became all about the power of hugs, it was so much more fun.
I think that was actually that led to probably my biggest laugh in the whole movie was when he's constantly hugging people all the time, and it just kept reoccurring. That it's like it just got funnier and funnier.
He kept wanting to give Rusty a hug. Come on,
get in here, man.
There was actually a part with him when I think it's when you guys were all in the police station and they're trying to find out what's going on with Sensefoot, and the mayor's like, just trust the system, and then Vance is over there heckling him the entire time. Was he improvising that? Was that just him going, hey?
We'd give them lines and then say, all right, go, because we liked them all kind of talking over each other, and you know, it was, I don't know, 60% written, 40% improvised, and we were dying just while we were filming that. It was so hilarious, and they did such a good job. Those guys, Brendan and Randy, they live out in LA, and they do stand-up comedy and whatnot, and we barely even knew them at the time, but I had been on their podcast a few times and invited them to come be in the movie, and they actually flew across the country and to film with us, which was crazy, but that was another busy day. Cool. But totally worth it. They were so good.
Yeah.
trying to save money, so I figured he didn't move that much in these scenes, so I was just gonna roto it. So I used Mocha to roto Jim McHugh. Then, once he was isolated from the background, I was able to composite the miniature behind him.
Have you guys ever had any run-ins with law enforcement doing that kind of stuff, or?
No, I will say when we were filming the River Beast, we had some raw meat that the beast was eating. And filming in the public park, there was a lady walking her Doberman. And while dressed in the beast costume with some raw meat, I'm there with the camera. Farley's there fake eating, and we turn our heads, and the dog had sniffed that we had some raw meat. So the dog was super interested in the fact that there's this beast holding some like the cheapest real raw meat you could get at the grocery store just as a prop. And luckily they had him on a leash. Otherwise there might have been a River Beast versus Doberman battle that day.
Sequel?
We're pretty good at finding spots where no one will bother us, you know? We do a lot of recon missions ahead of time, and the fact that we're using this camera, like, it doesn't look like a movie camera, you know? It just looks like we're taking pictures. So, and there's not a lot of us either. It's not like a huge crew. So we're pretty below the radar. There's a scene in Slingshot Cops where the Vance is up on the stands giving a campaign speech to about 5 people. And then midway through it, he says, "Let's adjourn to the swing set." And that was not in the script. We were halfway through filming the scene, and suddenly a Little League game was about to start at that park, and there were a lot of people.
Yeah. We called it.
They're taking batting practice. You just hear
we
the,
called
hear
it
the ball
because
pinging
in the
off
background of the shots, we saw the Little League playing. We're like, that's why they did that. That's
Oh,
perfect.
wow.
Yeah, so we quickly ad-libbed that line and then moved over to the swing set, and you know, those are the kind of things you have to do.
Now I can't hear.
My hearing, where did it go? Where did it go?
Going back to when you started knocking everything down, I had a throwback to The Room, and so was that your inspiration for that moment?
Not specifically, but I can see, like, I should have said something along the lines of "You are tearing me apart" or something at that moment. But I mean, we love The Room.
Is he about to die? No, he's gonna get his sense of taste.
Yeah.
No, not his sense of taste.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't trying to be bad. He was trying to be good, and that's what we do.
Yeah, high rewatch value. And when Farley was breaking those desks apart, I would tell people too, it's sort of like, didn't you always want to make like a cop movie when you were a kid, or an action movie when you were a kid? It's like we were finally getting to do it. And when you watch those kind of movies, there's always a scene where they're like, I'm turning in my badge and my gun, and then I'm out of here, commish. You know, there's like that kind of thing. And it was like our chance to like be that guy on like the garage filmmakers level. You know, no one was going to hire us to go, you know, make a movie that way. But what if we just did it ourselves and like wanted to have that experience? So, but we had to be very careful in our experience because we only had one bookshelf, and we did 2 takes of it. But even at that, we were like, this is big budget, man. I don't want to break this because we still need it to sit there for the rest of the movie.
Hey, that's a cool place.
That is a really good place. They showed it at just the right time, too.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I appreciate, because we watch a lot of really bad low-budget movies. And you put so much detail in your stories that you try to actually have things that established earlier come back into play, and this and that, and which we appreciate because you don't normally see that in these other bad movies. So it's very refreshing seeing that in your films.
Yeah. I will say that Farley and I talk about them before we start filming for like a year plus. So I could just be walking in the woods one day with the dog, and I get a text, and Farley will say like, here's what should happen. in Freaky Farley 2, what if this? And then I'll text him back, yes, and what if this? And then I continue my walk, and we don't talk about that movie again for maybe like a month. But then, like, when we're working on the script for something else, we might text 6 a.m. in the morning, oh, yes, that's what we should do. This is the way to solve that script problem. So it's always, like, at least in the back burner of your mind. So we're not rushed to, like, come up with the story, even though we stay on point with the script, but there's a lot of like letting it ruminate.
It hurts so bad to make movies that as we get older, we're taking more and more time between movies. Like Freaky Farley to Manch Vegas was 2 years, Manch Vegas to River Beast was 3 years, River Beast to Slingshot Cops was 4 years, and now I guess it's gonna be another 4 years for this one. But that means we have that. It doesn't mean we're relaxing on the years that we're not filming. It means we're writing that time, and we definitely, the writing's probably the best part of it for sure. You're comfortable, and whatever you can just think of it. Then you don't have to make it happen. But a good thing while you're writing is to say, can we make this happen? And if the answer is no, then don't write it. Don't get attached to a concept that we couldn't possibly film.
Well, I would like to thank you guys for coming on for this interview. I mean, this has been fantastic. I know that we love your films, and we're definitely going to have to check out Druids. And we're definitely going to check out your newest film that's coming out. You guys keep us up to date when you're having the premiere. We'll definitely head out there.
You guys said October 25th for, what was the name of the movie again?
Metal Detector Maniac.
Metal Detector Maniac.
Yeah, we're definitely going.
Couldn't you see that title on like a VHS like shelf one day, like in the horror section? That's like my dream. That would be what I would want to see.
Whoa! Oh, have you ever seen a basketball court in this backyard before?
Nope.
Can I just say, I constantly search my own movie titles on Google to see if anyone's talking about them, and I found your video on River Beast, and I was laughing so hard watching the three of you come to terms with River Beast. It seems like you had watched it and then you filmed your reaction, and even as you were reacting to it, it felt like you were making sense of it in your heads and like remembering things, and I was just so proud to have made the movie and to see you guys reacting the way that Charlie and I react to the weird movies that we rent, sometimes, and it was cool, it was like, this is exactly the way we designed the movie for this the only three people to react properly are these three.
Yeah, again, I definitely give you guys major props for that. Yeah, it's awesome that it connected with you guys, and you were so right in some of the stuff you were saying. It was like supernatural almost, the way you're describing the beast, and they probably couldn't see out of his eyes, and this act. When you said that the River Beast warning was written in the editing room, I wrote that in the editing room. That wasn't in the original movie. Yeah.
It's funny because that was a throwback to, have you ever seen The Screaming Skull? The 1940s, The Screaming Skull. In the beginning, they say, this film, if you die of fright during the film, all funeral arrangements will be paid through the producer of this film. And they have that disclaimer in the very beginning. And I was like, this is perfect throwback to that movie.
Yeah, and we didn't know that one specifically, but it's that whole like, P.T. Barnum-esque kind of showmanship and just like Americana, and like they used to have so many funny promotions. I don't know what happened. No one does those anymore. So I thought it was, we thought it was funny.
And they're a lot of fun to watch.
Well, is there anything you guys want to say to people? Last thing you guys want to say?
Where can we find you guys?
Go for it, Farley.
My personal phone number is 603-644-0048. You can call me anytime, and my message to people is get out there and make your own movie. It's so much fun. It's exhausting. It's a roller coaster ride, but in the end, you have this thing, like Charlie said, like a document from a certain time in your life, and it gives you an appreciation for other movies.
Yeah, and I also, you know, you don't always know right away if your movie is gonna. It might be like 20 years later that someone finds it and really likes it. It's possible. So yeah, Farley's website, motronmedia.com, has like a bunch of info on his music and on our movies we've done. And Twitter @Shock Marathons is me, and on YouTube, Shock Marathons, you can watch trailers for all these movies, behind the scenes stuff. So if you guys were asking about the equipment and any like technical details, go look at that stuff from Slingshot Cops or our other stuff, and you'll see it's just me and Farley sometimes. We set up a behind the scenes camera on a tripod and run out in the street and do some embarrassing thing in the middle of a downtown and then run and turn the camera off, so it really is like a homemade underdog kind of situation.
Well, thank you for the movies you've made. We've enjoyed them quite a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on.
Oh, thank you.
And after the fact, it's this like it's piecing things together, and it's just like we've got all this junk. How can we put it together to make a halfway cohesive movie? And a lot of late nights too. Oftentimes, if you look at the emails back and forth, it's it's after midnight. Hey, here's what I came up with, and then the reply 2 hours later. It sounds pretty good, but it's all worth it because the Slingshot Cops is an international movie sensation.